All right, so if you're an IB math student, chances are you've heard about the internal assessment, the IA. And for a lot of people, it just feels like this giant, confusing challenge. But what if I told you it's actually a pretty clear path and there's a map to follow? Well, in this explainer, we're going to give you that map. We're going to demystify the whole thing from beginning to end.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to get a solid overview of what the IA even is. Then, we'll dive deep and crack the 5 assessment criteria. And trust me, this is the most important part. After that, we'll pull back the curtain on the whole moderation thing. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a clear path for you to succeed.
Okay, let's jump right in. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of scoring points, we need to make sure we're all on the same page about what this assignment is really all about.
This is the big one, right? The question that probably keeps a few of you up at night. But you know what? The answer is actually pretty simple.
Okay, the key words here are your exploration. This is your chance to find a little corner of the math world that you think is cool and just explore it. It's not another test. And notice that 2-step marking process. Your teacher grades it, and then the IB checks it. We're definitely going to talk more about that checking part a little later on.
Now, this table right here, this is basically your blueprint for success. Everything you do, every sentence you write should be guided by these 5 criteria. It all adds up to 20 marks, and you'll want to pay special attention to Criterion E, use of mathematics. That one's the heavy hitter, worth a solid 6 marks.
All right, let's really get into it. This next section is the absolute core of our explainer. If you can get your head around these 5 criteria, you will know exactly what you need to do to write a great IA. So think of this as your personal checklist for success.
First up, presentation. Now, this isn't about using fancy fonts or anything like that. It's all about clarity. Does your paper flow logically from start to finish? Does it have a clear beginning, middle, and end? And this last point is a classic mistake. Don't just dump all your charts and tables in an appendix at the end. They need to be right there in the text, supporting your points as you make them.
Next, mathematical communication. Think of this as, well, speaking the language of math correctly and clearly. Are you using the right symbols and notation? Did you remember to define what your variables stand for? Are you using graphs and diagrams to help explain things? It's all about being clear and consistent.
Now, Criterion C, personal engagement. This one is misunderstood all the time. This is not a score for how many hours you put in. It's about making the project truly yours. Are you asking your own questions? Finding a unique angle? It's about showing that you're genuinely curious, not just going through the motions of a textbook problem.
Reflection is all about thinking about your thinking. And here's the secret. It shouldn't just be a little paragraph tacked on at the end. Real, meaningful reflection happens throughout the entire paper. You should be constantly asking yourself things like, why did I choose this method? Or, what are the limitations here? Or, so what do my results actually mean?
And here we go, the big one, Criterion E. For both SL and HL, the math you use has to be relevant and at the right level for your course. But see the difference? For SL, the goal is to be mostly correct and show good knowledge. For HL, the bar is definitely higher. The math needs to be precise and error-free, and it needs to show sophistication or rigor. That just means you're showing a much deeper, more formal command of the concepts you're working with.
Okay, so you've handed in your IA, you survived, and your teacher has given you a mark. But it's not quite final yet. Now we enter the slightly mysterious world of moderation. It sounds kind of scary, but I promise it's actually pretty logical when we break it down. So here's the main takeaway. Moderation is not about some IB examiner remarking your paper from scratch. It's about quality control. The best way to think about it is like this. It's like they're calibrating thousands of scales all over the world to make sure that a kilogram in one country weighs the exact same as a kilogram everywhere else. It's all about fairness.
This slide shows the whole journey perfectly. First, your teacher marks everybody's work. Then, your school sends all the marks, plus a sample of IAs, usually a few high, middle, and low scoring ones, to the IB. A moderator then looks at that sample to see if the teacher's marking is in line with the global standard. If it's consistently a bit too high or a bit too low, a statistical adjustment, or moderation factor, gets applied to the entire class, not just to one person. Then, that moderated mark gets mixed in with your exam scores to become your final grade.
So why do they go through all this trouble? Well, it all comes down to 3 big ideas: fairness, credibility, and consistency. It makes sure that an 18 out of 20 in one school means the same thing as an 18 out of 20 in a school on the other side of the planet. So the bottom line here
is that moderation is not something to be afraid of. It's actually a system that's there to protect the value of your work.
Okay, in our final section, let's turn all this information into a real, actionable plan. We've talked about the what and the why, so now let's focus on the how.
I absolutely love this quote because it just cuts through all the noise and anxiety. Don't waste your energy trying to guess what some moderator might be thinking. Your best possible strategy is just to write a fantastic, well-argued IA that clearly hits all the criteria. Strong work always speaks for itself.
So here it is, your master plan. First, focus on the rubric and present professionally. Think of the rubric as your checklist. If your paper is clear and you've ticked those boxes, you're nailing Criterion A and B. Next, explain your thinking. This is huge. Don't just give answers. Explain how you got there. That's how you show understanding and crush Criterion D, reflection. And finally, be authentic. Seriously, pick something you actually find interesting. That's the secret sauce for personal engagement, Criterion C, and it'll make the whole process feel way less like a chore.
At the end of the day, the Math IA is so much more than just another assignment for a grade. It really is an opportunity. It's a chance for you to take the wheel, to dive deep into something that actually sparks your curiosity, and to be a real mathematical investigator. So the final question isn't really about what grade you'll get. It's what will you discover?